My aha moment was at the closing table when he had me physically write out those six-figure checks and to purchase the property. And that was just like, wow, like I've never written a check this big. I was at the time like 23 years old. What is this? And that was really, I think the fact that he just let me write it seems like such a little thing. Like, it's not like it was my money, but it had that impact on me. And that was that aha moment.
Without Fear of Her Future podcast is for women who are passionately pursuing financial freedom using multiple streams of income and real estate to accomplish their goals. We are here to empower you to be brave, dream big, and design a life that you love that inspires others to do the same. I'm your co-host, Andrea Engstrom, a real estate investor and business coach and co-founder of the Partnership for Realtors. And I'm here with my co-host, Teresa Todd, founder of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and author of the book, Without Fear of Her Future. Over the past 2 years, Teresa has had over 300,000 join her masterclass, where she teaches women how to become successful real estate investors. Hey, Teresa.
Hey, Andrea. Well, we have another amazing guest today. We're talking to Ashley Kehr, co-host of the Bigger Pockets Real Estate Rookie podcast. Ashley left her staff accountant job to pursue real estate investing and has since grown her portfolio to more than 30 units. She accredits much of her success to the use of partnerships and creative financing. And with a dual degree in public accounting and finance, her specialty is educating new investors, analyzing deals, and helping others figure out the steps necessary to build their own real estate empire. Hello, Ashley. Welcome to the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Well, we are excited for our listeners to get to hear your wisdom. So thanks for coming today. And I'm just going to jump in with the very first question and ask you, so what was your aha moment that got you interested in real estate investing?
Yeah, that's actually a two-parter, I would say. The first one was when I graduated college working at an accounting firm. I had my first aha moment of I cannot sit at a desk for 8 hours a day and do basically the same thing over and over again, just for different companies. And so when I quit my accounting job, I went to work part-time as a property manager. I could work from home. It was a family friend that I was working for. It was great. And he owned a bunch of residential real estate. He also had some businesses he was running. And my first job for him was managing a 40-unit apartment complex. During that time, he was acquiring a new business, and I saw the power of how he was able to do that. He was refinancing that 40-unit apartment complex, doing a cash out refinance, taking those funds, and that was how he was purchasing this other business. And my aha moment was at the closing table when he had me physically write out those six-figure checks and to purchase the property. And that was just like, wow, like I've never written a check this big. I was at the time like 23 years old. What is this? And that was really, I think the fact that he just let me write it seems like such a little thing. Like, it's not like it was my money, but it had that impact on me. And that was that aha moment. Like I can still picture the wood paneling on the walls of the attorney's office.
That's awesome.
Things, but yeah, just seeing like, this is how he does it, the whole refinancing and, using the leverage to purchase something else.
Yes.
That's awesome. So how long was it after that moment that you bought your first property?
So I started working for him in April 2013, and that aha moment was in June 2013. And then it was about a year and a half later, September 2014, I bought my first duplex, and my partner, who actually supplied the capital, was his son.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's great. So he provided the capital. And so you found a great partner that helped fund those deals. But how did that work? So for you, what were you looking for in a partner, and what do you look for today in a good partner?
Yeah. So then it was just money. Like
Yeah.
I had this limited mindset that, I watched how this investor had done it, and it was, he would buy cash, whether it was cash that he had or cash he pulled out of business or cash from a cash out refinance. That's how he bought properties. So I had this limited mindset, that's how you had to do it. That's how you had to buy investment properties. at the time I hadn't even bought a home for myself yet. I got married and my husband already had a house, and then we built a house. So I had never gone through like the actual purchase of a property before. And so I just thought you had to pay cash for it. And so I knew he had savings, and I just said to him, I kept planting the seed as to look what your dad is doing. Like, I think we should do this too. And so it was the first property we looked at, and we put in an offer, they countered, and then we ended up agreeing on a number. And from there, we started building a portfolio.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How did you find that deal?
It was on the MLS. I
Yeah.
mean, once again, that's the only way I thought you could buy properties was on the MLS.
Awesome. And what was your strategy for that one? Was it a flip, or did you hold on to it?
It was a long-term buy and hold, and we actually just sold it 2 years ago. So we held on to it for a while, the first property.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you found the private money lender right off the beginning. And it sounds like
Yeah.
y'all really partnered and did a lot of things together. But if you
Yeah,
were to-
so became 50-50 partners on, the first probably 5 deals that I did. And, wasn't just all his capital. Those capital was for the first 2 deals. And after that, we refinanced and, continued to roll our money over after that and did seller financing, things like that. But
I love
that was
it.
definitely a great way to start.
Yes, yes. Well, now that you have grown the portfolio that you have and you've done lots of different things, how would you advise that somebody would structure a deal with someone who is providing the capital like you found?
Yeah, so the way we structured it, I would never do it again because it was like such a good deal for him, I would say.
Yeah.
But like the whole thing was I probably wouldn't have gotten started if I wouldn't have done that. So I think like the big point is to don't be afraid to not like it to be perfectly fair or to maximize your return. Like it's okay to give up something just to get started.
Yes.
So when we did it, he put in the capital to purchase the property, and we did it as like a loan payable to him. And he was getting his money paid back to him over 15-year amortization, and he was getting paid 5.5% interest. So he was making money on the money he invested already. And then he was 50% owner in the property. So he was getting 50% of the cash flow. And then when we sold the property, he got 50% of the profit on the property too. So it was a really sweet deal for him. I did all the property management. I did the leasing, oversaw any maintenance, things like that. So, I had a lot of sweat equity into the property, but doing that deal now, like I know what my worth is, and I can, do a lot more. Like I can acquire the deals, all the things like that. But, who knows how long it would have been until I actually started if I wouldn't have done that deal.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm a big believer in partnering up, especially when you start out. If you do not have any money, that's your way in. Partner with someone, and who cares if they make the most, they make more money than you. That is your foot in. And you do that a few times, then you're going to be exactly where you are now. And you don't have to do that. But I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, you talk a little bit about sweat equity. Explain to our listeners, what is that?
Yeah, so that's like using yourself to somewhat help the deal. So maybe you're not putting money in, but the company or you and your partner aren't having to pay somebody to do something because you're going to do it yourself. So I did my first like big rehab project. It was going to, I needed somebody to teach me how to do the rehab. So I paid for the property. I put up the capital. I paid for the whole rehab, but I took on a partner who knew construction, and he was the sweat equity. So I didn't have to pay a contractor. He did all of the work. I worked alongside him just to learn how things were done and get a better understanding of a rehab. And so that's just one example. There is like, it was a huge advantage to me. It saved me a lot of money. I didn't have to put money up front. Like now, yes, he owns 40% of the property, but to me, it was well worth it. I learned a lot. I got the deal. I didn't have to wait and save up more money or find a private money lender to fund the rehab or things like that. So it definitely worked out for me in that favor.
So talk to us about some of the frameworks that you use for finding different ways to purchase deals. So you started with a 50-50 partner and that was the capital. Now what are you doing or what do you recommend?
Yeah. So my next partner after that was 50-50 everything. So,
Mhm.
we would, if we needed to put in money, we would do 50% each. I was taking care of property management. He was taking care of the maintenance. So that was pretty even. And we had such a great friendship beforehand that I think that really helped us, because one thing I think so many people get worried about is, well, it's not fair. I'm doing more than he is. So like, if we had a couple months where there was no maintenance, but the tenants were calling, complaining about the other tenant or things like that, and I was busy doing stuff, we never were like nitpicky about that with each other. So I think like setting that precedent ahead of time really can make or break your partnership too, is that you have to realize you need to lean on each other and it's not always going to be completely fair. Then I got to a
Mhm.
time period where I was kind of like stuck,
Yeah.
and my sister was graduating college. So I was like, you know what? She got a job. And I said, why don't you buy a duplex? You can house hack it, live in one unit and the other. She's like, well, I've been in college. I don't have any money saved. So what we did was we partnered on a deal where I gave her the down payment. I gifted it to her since I'm her sister. I could do that. And she went and got an FHA loan. So with an FHA loan, she only had to put 3.5% down. If I was going to buy this property, I would have had to find the full cash amount, or I would have had to
Mhm.
put 20% down on the property. So here I was getting 50% ownership of this property for only 3.5% of the purchase price. And then my
Yes.
sister was going and she was getting the FHA mortgage in her name. And then I'm not on the mortgage at all. So it doesn't affect my debt to income. And then we are both 50-50 partners, or, have 50-50 equity on the deed. We're both listed on the deed of the property. One tenant, the tenant that lives downstairs, pays the mortgage, and my sister pays like $45 a month towards her insurance, I think it is. And the rest is covered. So that was just like one way that, when I was stuck, I tried to find a creative way to get
Yeah.
into another deal, and it worked out for
Yes.
both of us. She got into the property, didn't need to save up for a down payment, and I now have ownership in this property. Like, yes, it's not cash flowing for me right now because my sister's living there, but it's a long-term play for me. This is a great area for appreciation. And when my sister does move out, then I'll get, 50% of the cash flow when that other unit is rented.
Woo.
So
So good.
smart.
So good.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I think there's so many people that just think, well, I don't have $200,000. I can't go buy
Yeah.
something. And so you figured out how to make it work and leveraged, relationships with family and made a win-win. And that's always what we look for as investors
Mhm.
is a win-win. You had a great tip for us on partnering earlier. What other tips do you have on working with partners or finding and being a good partner?
Yeah. So as far as being a good partner, you should take like a disc profile test, figure
Uh-huh.
out what your Enneagram is, things like that. Get to know yourself, like do some personal development as to what your strengths and weaknesses are. Because the last thing you want is to find a partner that's exactly like you, because you're both going to want to do the same things and neither one is going to want to do the same thing. So finding someone who really complements those, I think, is like a great starting point. It's worked out for me very well partnering with people who have been friends and establishing that relationship
Mhm.
first. I think dating someone, I
Yeah.
guess, in a sense, before you actually like do a deal with them, or
Yes.
just do one deal at a time and not just say, okay, we're building this company. We're going to go out and buy 10 deals for the, over the next year. Like just start with one and kind of date that person as a partner is
Yes.
a great starting point. I took on a new partner last year, and it was I just like all these things just kind of like popped up at me. I wasn't even really looking for a partner. It was just I was listening, I guess,
Mhm.
and it was somebody who worked in construction. They hated their job. He was also a veteran, so he had a 10% Lowe's discount. He had his medical paid for, so he didn't need any health insurance. Um, he had a VA loan at his disposal. And it was just like all these little things that were just like, you know what? Why don't you come and work for me a little bit and let's see how this does? And so he's laid off in the winter.
Ah,
So during the winter, he came and he worked for me for free all
Wow.
winter long. So I just got an idea of it. And then we were able to build out this structure so that he was able to quit his job and start partnering with me on deals. And we kind of build out a team from there to do like project management and asset management, things like that. But just like not being like so like focused on like, I need a partner. I'm just like the first opportunity that's there. Like take your time, like getting to know someone if they're actually going to be a good partner. But also on the flip side, don't partner with someone just because they're your friend, because that can end up in disaster too.
Yes. I love all of that so much. So, so good. I want to change gears a little bit because there's so much to your story. I want to talk about how did you go about setting up 2 property management companies?
Yeah. So when I started working for this other investor, I was managing his 40-unit apartment complex, and then he got another 40 units, and then he had these commercial properties, and just got like so overwhelming. So I started looking into, I mean, when I first started working for him, it was the person before me just basically had a piece of paper where they were checking if people paid rent or not. And
Oh my
so
goodness.
checks were left into like a little drop box in the office door, things like that. So I built out a property management software through AppFolio is what we use, and just put systems in place. Well, I also did this for my own properties. I built my own separate property management company for my partners and I that would manage our properties. And so I did that for about 5 years. I had both of these companies running, and we didn't take on any outside clients or anything like that. It was just me and my partners and this one other investor with this large portfolio. So we had the 2 separate. And the reason we did that is because I didn't have my real estate license, so I couldn't take on anybody else's properties. So that's why he had his company and then I had mine separate. But and then in 2020, we actually hired a third-party property management company to take on both of our properties. So the other investor and my own and my partners, and we gave them all to the property management company. And just recently, we've decided that we're going to go back to our own property management company, but instead of me being the property manager, we're going to hire a team and build it out. So it's not just me and one part-time person doing admin work where I'm crying and pulling my hair out all the time. So we're working on building that out now, and then that transition will be towards the end of March, April. So
Gotcha. So how many properties do you have today in your personal portfolio?
honestly, I don't know the exact number. It's about 30. I don't retain that information. I don't know. I can't tell you how many units. But yeah, we've bought and sold quite a few in the past couple of years. And I guess I'm just like a firm believer in that that doesn't really matter as to, how many units you have. If someone could have 1 unit right now, but have bought and sold 200, 300 properties over the last 5 years or whatever, and done that many deals. So yeah, I get asked that so often. I probably should just write down. I just say around 30. Just sit down and do it. I don't want to take that much time, but
Yeah. Well, how were you able to scale? Because there are some people that spend a whole lifetime as a real estate investor and don't do 30 deals, and you've done it in a relatively short amount of time. How were you able to scale so fast? Like, what was the game changer for you?
I think the biggest thing was working for this other investor, and that just gave me a lot of confidence as to like whenever he's acquiring something, I'm doing all the work. And sometimes I would even be the one to find him the commercial property and be like, you should, if he was doing a 1031 exchange or something, be like, this is a property you should buy. So I think that gave me a lot of confidence in myself, as being able to see that I could do it for him. So why shouldn't I do it myself? And then the just leveraging partners. So, for a little while I had 3 different partners, and it would be like, okay, here's the deal that I have, which partner, what do I need for this deal to happen? So which partner can I go to? And I think having those options was definitely a big advantage point too.
Yeah. And do you do single family, multifamily? What are you focused on right now?
Yeah, so it's mostly small multifamily, so 2 to 4 units. My largest is a 6 unit. And then this past year, though, I've acquired cabins on land. And so we've been working on completely gutting and renovating these cabins and just turning them into really nice modern, properties instead of, the dark wood and just like
Yeah.
outdated kitchens and bathrooms, like going in, putting tile in and really nice finishes.
Oh, that's exciting. So did you purchase a campground, it sounds like?
No, they're
What was
just
it?
separate parcels.
Oh,
So just
cool.
little parcels of land. One is 3 acres with a little A-frame cabin. Another one is 10 acres with a cabin. 2 of them have outhouses on them. Another is 30 acres with 2 cabins on it. So the little
Charming.
mixed properties, yeah.
Did you hear
How
my gasp
fun.
when you said A-frame on a little bit of land? That's what all the enticing images of like Airbnbs and like they
I
have the
know.
number
It
and
Uh-huh.
it is
everything.
it has turned out so cute, but it's like you can't we did not imagine, like, how difficult it is to plan a layout when you have no wall space with, like,
Yeah.
the A-frames coming down, like, that was a huge challenge for us that we weren't expecting, but, yeah, it
Yeah.
turned out really beautiful.
Yeah. Will those be Airbnbs or are they gonna be long-term rentals?
Yeah, they'll be Airbnbs, yep.
That's exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
Love it.
tell us what's been the most frustrating part about residential real estate investing for you?
Um, for a while, it was dealing with tenant conflicts with each other.
Hmm.
And for a while, it made me want to consider, like, just doing single family so tenants didn't have to communicate with each other, talk to each
Yeah.
other. And that was a big pain point for me because for a long time, I didn't feel like I was a good communicator. And since then, I've done like a lot of personal development and like read the book Hug Your Haters by Jay Baer as to like, how do you handle when someone's calling you and they're already mad and angry, as to like killing them with kindness and taking care of the situation. And the investor that I work for, we like joke about this now. Like when something happens and I take the call and everything, and we like, look at how much I've grown. Like, when I was only 23, 24 working for him, and I would just like not handle it as well. So, um, that was, I guess, like a big thing is like learning how to communicate with tenants. So that was always a pain point for me. But I love problem solving. So as far as like the maintenance side of things and other property management issues, that never really got to me or was a huge pain point because I can problem solve those things. Is usually a solution to things.
Yes.
The next biggest pain point is just contractors.
Yeah.
Finding reliable
Woo.
contractors. And,
Yep.
I still get into my head sometimes as to, I just feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And,
Yeah.
I'll have to like look at the big picture and just see like, okay, it's not me. This is just how this contractor is and things like that.
Oh, so good. So good. All of this is so good. One thing that I love about your story is I'm just listening to you chat is that you make all of this sound really obtainable for just an
Yeah, it
average
is.
girl. Yeah. So, what are some of the hard things that happened? What are some of the mistakes that you have made? I have learned that people love to hear about the mistakes. So,
Oh
what do
yeah,
you
I have
learn
a lot
about?
of those. I
Well,
actually
what
had
did, yeah.
someone comment on my Instagram yesterday saying that like, it seems like you have a lot of like trashed apartments, people being evicted. Like this person said they follow a lot of investors and it seems like I have a lot more. And I was just like, actually, that's just because all I share when a tenant moves out and it's like the apartment's clean, like I'm not gonna post about it because nobody cares. Everybody
Yeah.
loves it. I'm like, the last 4 reels on my Instagram posts are from one apartment that was trashed. Like I just keep reusing the content of it because people love it.
It's interesting. Yeah.
And it makes me like cry less because people are at least being entertained by me having to throw $20,000 at a rehab, I
Oh
guess.
my
But
God.
yeah, so one mistake that I made was not putting systems and processes in place early on. Like I was just so excited, like I want to buy, I want to, increase my cash flow, but I wasn't focused on the actual like business implementation part of creating like things so it's more effective and efficient when onboarding a property and getting tenants in place. So we actually ended up, me and my one partner, selling a property. We only held it for a year and we got to this point where like, wow, we're overwhelmed. Like
Mm.
we need to take a step back and we need to like, we just feel like everything is chaos. And we actually sold one property and, we still sold it for more than we bought it for, But it was just like that realization of like, okay, hold on, let's like take a step back and let's refocus before we get too far ahead of ourselves. And then just like, it's going to, ruin our investments because we didn't take the time to do that. So that's definitely one big thing. A mistake I made within this last year is that A-Fame property that I purchased, I hired 3 contractors, and this was always a big no-no for me. And I don't know why, but I just didn't stick to my guns on this one. And I paid the 3 contractors hourly, and it started out great. And then after a couple months, it was just like, I don't see any progress here. What is going on? And I ended up having to fire them. And then I hired in different contractors, depending on the skill set of what needed to be completed to actually get the job to completion. But that was like a huge mistake. Like, I know better than to, you get an estimate up front, you stick to the estimate. Instead, I was just doing it hourly for them to just go ahead and do the whole rehab. And so that was one of my mistakes there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, I think every challenge can be turned into an opportunity, and we want to also focus on opportunities here too. So how do you prepare yourself for being able to take advantage of opportunities? Because that's a big part of this, right? Is like being ready for the opportunity when it presents itself. Like you had a great opportunity when you joined the Bigger Pockets family and got invited to be a host of their podcast. So congratulations on that. That's so
Thank
cool.
you.
But how did you prepare yourself for that opportunity?
Yeah. So it was, first of all, very unexpected. Like, I never thought I would be a podcast host, I guess. But yeah, so I did the interview for it, and I was selected. And that was right around the time that I was considering hiring a third-party property management company. So that, like, once I got, the podcast position, I was like, okay, yes, we definitely have to go forward with getting this off my plate. So one thing is, when I want to take on another opportunity, I have to figure out as to what am I going to take off my plate to put this other thing onto my plate. So right now we're building out our own property management team to take it from the third-party property management company. So I'm hiring a property manager. I just hired an assistant, and I just don't want to have to really do anything. I'm going to, assist in what, guide is counsel what I think that systems and operations should be, but I'm not going to be doing any implementation. I'm going to be letting everybody else handle that. So being able to let go of the reins and let go of control and figure out, who, not how. And my business partner that I took on in the last year, the one that I use all his VA benefits for. And we joke about this all the time. Like, every time we go to Lowe's, he'll say, just so you know, I saved you $100 today. But one big thing with him is, like, he does all the project management. And, like, there's been times where he'll say, like, oh, this is the issue that came up. And I'll be like, oh, I know this plumber. He can, like, take care of this. And I'll call him, get a thing. And then it, like, ends up turning into something else. And then, well, I was the point of contact. I need to follow up with them now. And then things like that. And it's like, I need to learn to, even though I can do something super fast and I know what to do in my head, I have to let somebody else take ownership of that and move forward with that. So that's, like, one big thing that is kind of helping me take on more, is being able to let other people do things.
That's such wisdom. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think a lot of the people I talk to who are getting into real estate investing, you don't have the luxury of quitting their job and then starting it and, like, letting everything else in their life go to the side while they focus on real estate. We're always adding it to a very busy life, is what it seems like.
Yeah.
And you've done this a lot over the years. Like, you've had a liquor store at one point, lots of other things going on. And, we hear people talk about, well, stay in your lane, follow one course until successful. But at the Women's Real Estate Investors Network, we love multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
But tell us, why are you doing it this way? Like, you've got multiple things going on, and have there been advantages or challenges? Like, how do you see that juggle?
Yeah, I 100% agree with, when you are getting started, stay in your lane, build that strong foundation. Like, my long-term buy and holds, they're like my reserves. They're my, cushion. Or, if one of my other investments goes bad, like, I still have my long-term buy and holds. And if someone was to come to me, Ashley, I want to buy in your market, a long-term buy and hold. I can analyze that for you in seconds. I'm an expert in that market, in that property type. So that is my bread and butter. But if you want me to go and flip a house in Kansas City, like I have no idea how to do that. I am a rookie investor in that sense. But I agree. It's the same as I love the multiple income streams. But I think as a new investor getting started, there's so much to learn that you're learning the basics. Where for me to go and to invest in Kansas City, I know how to analyze a deal. I know what to at least look for. I know how to, network, things like that. As a new investor, you may not know or feel confident about any of these things yet. So staying focused in one market, on one property type, one kind of strategy, and just build that out, and get that strong foundation. Then when you know that you can do that and you are successful at it, then go and kind of pivot and take on more things. So I did long-term buy and hold from 2014. And then my first other investment was a Airbnb arbitrage, which was not until 2018, the end of 2018.
Yeah. I think there's so much wisdom to what you just said.
Absolutely.
I talk to a lot of people that are like, well, I want to do it all, because we get excited and we learn all the things. And then we're like, well, I want to do this and I want to do this. And so I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you just said, is to become the master of one strategy before you try to diversify too much. So,
and if you think about some like really big investors, as to a lot of them were or are just like, you look at them and you think, okay, house flipper, or like AJ Osborne, you think self-storage, like they mastered something and they became like really successful at that one thing they're doing, and they didn't branch out. Like James Daynard, he's, house flipper, Seattle, but he does long-term buy and holds. He does everything there, but it's just that one market. That's what he knows. So he doesn't branch out into other areas. So I think if you look at, some of the investors that, you look up as mentors or follow along, that a lot of them have that one market or that one focus, that one strategy that they stick to. And then maybe they pivot a little bit and get that shiny object syndrome, but they all have that strong foundation.
Well, thank you so much for all of the wisdom. I want to know, what are you most excited about working on next? And what are your goals for the future?
Yeah. So my biggest thing is getting this property management company up and running. We want to kind of like stabilize our properties over this time period after taking them over from the property management company. There's a lot of changes as to the way they're operated that we want to make, and pretty sure that it's going to increase our cash flow quite a bit just from better management on the properties. I mean, poor property management can really make or break the cash flow on your deals. So we've definitely seen a decrease in cash flow from handing the properties over to the property management, but also it's not like we've seen an increase in, customer satisfaction from our tenants either, or, an increase in the quality of the apartments either, where we would be fine with seeing a decrease in cash flow if that were the case, but it's not. So that's kind of like our biggest priority then, and then just kind of build up some more buy and holds.
All right. Well, we always like to ask our guests 3 takeaways. So what 3 things would you advise an investor or entrepreneur who is looking to be brave and grow, or is perhaps feeling stuck where they are?
So the first thing would be to check out my new book, Real Estate Rookie, 90 Days to Your First Investment. And it basically takes you through the steps of getting your first deal or even your next deal. You may get inspired by some different ideas as to maybe you want to partner with someone. I talk about partnerships in there. Or maybe you want to learn some kind of creative finance, like seller financing or subject to, or things like that. We can go through the book and see some ideas to get your first step there.
Yes, definitely get her book.
And then the second one would be to work for an investor. So that's how I got started, and I got paid to learn, paid to network, paid experience. And even if you can't switch careers like I did, just becoming a leasing agent on Sundays or, a weeknight or something like that, showing apartments for an investor, driving around an investor. My one business partner, like part of our deal is that he always drives so that I can work while we're going to a property or doing whatever. And like that, I think would be a huge advantage. I have a friend, Alex, out in LA, who every time he goes somewhere, he posts on his Instagram, like, hey, I'm looking for a driver. You want to job shadow me for the day? I need to be driven around. I'm looking at these properties, things like that. And he gets so many people that like offer, and they get to see firsthand what he does and how his business runs, things like that. So offering to drive someone around, even just little things like that. The one thing I would say is don't ask somebody, what can I do for you? Try and like figure out and know what they need, because that's honestly sometimes the hardest thing, I feel like, is figuring out what you need and telling someone that, where if they come to you and say, I can do this for you, and them may not even realize that they needed it.
So good. So good.
So good. Well, Teresa, do you have any takeaways from today's episode? So many good nuggets today.
Oh my gosh, there were. But I wanted just to mention, because you just mentioned this a couple of times, is the work that you had to do on yourself to become the person that you are. And I'm assuming that's just mindset and thinking differently about money. And so it doesn't matter what business that you're in. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I always hear successful people mentioning that. And I heard that from you as well.
Yeah, I think like doing personal development on yourself is so crucial and so important, that you're going to build better relationships with other people. And you see a lot of like posted on Instagram or Facebook of like moms groups saying like, they'll post something about, moms need to take care of themselves to better take care of their kids or whatever. But I think that's true in all aspects for anyone, is that you need to take care of yourself so that you can be better for other people and help other people and be a better communicator and be better in relationships, things like that.
There's nothing like going through hard things in real estate to teach you where your character defects are and where we need to grow, and to kind of stretch you in ways that you've never been stretched before. So
yeah, and I think like building those partnerships too is or like even hiring. So like we've been hiring a lot, and just I try to be completely upfront and say, this is how I respond to things, or this is how I like things. Like I am completely honest. I don't like small talk. I am so sorry, but when we get on a Zoom call, let's just get to the point and go through the thing. And like I set that expectation up front, and I said, I am so sorry if that feels like rude, but I just like, I want to get things done and I want to keep things moving. And like the response back is like, that's great to hear. Thank you so much for telling me that. Instead of like me getting on the call and them telling me like, oh, ask me about the weather, and me getting annoyed, and then it just like ruins the whole vibe of the meeting and things like that. So I try to be like really open and honest with those things. Yeah.
Brene Brown in her book, Dare to Lead, says, clear is kind. And I think that's so powerful. Well, Ashley, where can people connect with you best? You've got a book, you've got a podcast. How can people follow you?
Yeah, you can find me on your favorite podcast platform, Real Estate Rookie. My co-host and I, Tony Robinson, we help rookie investors get started. We have incredible guests on the show who are all rookie investors who share their experience. And then once in a while, we have an experienced investor that comes on and really like breaks down one thing that they're doing, like construction management or things like that, to help rookies. And then you can find me on Instagram at Wealth from Rentals.
Perfect. Well, Ashley, we always like to ask our guests to also issue a challenge. So if we're talking to newer investors, what is something that you would challenge them to do over the next week to move forward in their business and in their life?
It would be to make an offer. Yes. So we do we're doing a 90-day mentee series on the podcast right now, and we have Brandon on, and he didn't have any deals yet, and he's just like, I'm looking on the MLS, things like that. And just like, I can't make the numbers make sense. And just because that's what the purchase price is, doesn't mean that's what the price you have to pay is. So make low offers. So he made 3 offers, and within 2 weeks he got one accepted, and now he has a deal. And he was like shocked. And he said, making offers works. We're like, yeah, we know. So make an offer on a property, and don't be afraid to insult the seller, insult your real estate agent, or whatever the reason that's holding you back. Like, people accept lowball offers all the time. So
that's so good.
Yeah.
Well, I used to make a joke when I first, because I've been an investor for about 2 years now. I just celebrated 2 years in business as a real estate investor.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And Bigger Pockets and that whole family was such an inspiration for me when I was getting started. And I would make a joke that every day that I would listen to a Bigger Pockets podcast, I would make an offer on a house because it would just get me in that right mindset. But you're
Yes.
absolutely right. We don't get deals if we don't make offers.
And that's such a good point too, is like listening to a podcast to get inspired and motivated. So like on Tuesdays is when we usually record our podcast, and we'll have like 2 guests. We'll maybe do like 2 episodes ourselves or something like that. At the end of that day, I am so pumped up and energized. Like I want to be, I want to be doing something. I need to get back to work. Like it's such an incredible experience getting to be the host and getting to interact with these people firsthand and getting to ask the questions and kind of feel that curiosity.
Woohoo.
Perfect. Well, I love this. Ashley, thank you so much for what you've shared today, the wisdom. This is so inspiring to our listeners. I especially love the strategy you shared of the deal you did with your sister. So everybody go back and replay that because it was super smart. But if you've heard something that helped you today, please share this podcast with a friend to help her get into real estate investing as well. Hit follow, leave us an honest review. It lets us know we're making an impact and helps us reach more people.
Yes. And again, Ashley, thank you. And I just want, it's Kehr, Ashley, Kehr, and then tell them the name of your book again.
It is Real Estate Rookie, 90 Days to Your First Investment.
All right, girls, go get it.
Awesome.
Well, if you are ready to create financial freedom and build generational wealth, then check out the Without Fear of Her Future Masterclass. The link to join is in the podcast show notes.
Kudos to you, Ashley, for bringing the heat today. Great wisdom you've shared with our listeners.
Thank you both so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, on behalf of the Women's Real Estate Investors Network and Teresa Todd, I'm Andrea Engstrom, encouraging you to be brave and dream big.